What's going on, everyone? Ruben here. I'm a talent partner at a corporate tech company, and I've been recruiting for about 8 years. I'm here to support you in your layoff journey with this layoff survival guide. You clicked this because of the title, so I won't waste any more of your time and just provide straight value. So we'll just jump right into it. So if you're in tech, chances are you've either been laid off already or you're always expecting it just due to the nature of the news and the cycle of layoffs happening since 2020. As a recruiter, I talk to tons of candidates every single day, and I always learn at how they've been laid off without the company ever making big news about it. And most of these companies are relatively small, 2 to 500 employees at best. If you do have a job right now, or even if you don't, this may still help you, but it might be just slightly harder. But if you're working right now, this is the best time to prepare. I'm not a financial advisor, but I've listened to a lot of financial advice, and some of the things I've heard consistently over the course of reading tons of books and listening to a bunch of financial YouTubers. One of the most important things that I did before when I started hearing about layoffs was aggressively build up my emergency fund. Now, originally, I already had one, but it only had about 2 months worth of expenses, especially living here in California. I knew that I needed more than that. So once I started hearing about the layoffs back in 2021, I started to aggressively put down some money. Okay, I'll build in 4 months of an emergency fund. I thought that would be enough. So when I did get laid off in 2023, I did have 4 months worth of expenses saved up. And luckily, the company did offer a severance package, which included about 3 additional months of pay, vacation time, and all these things, because legally, California, they have to pay out your vacation days. So luckily, I had about 7 months worth of an emergency fund. My first tip is to build aggressively with your emergency fund, 6 to 12 months. A lot of the candidates I talk to have been on the market at least 6 months. It's taking a really long time to find a job right now. So I recommend starting there. The second thing I recommend and what I hear about a lot is pay off all your debt aggressively. Car loans, credit card debt. These things have insanely high interest rates. And you want to get rid of that first because in the long term, you'll be paying more out of pocket than you would be before. So I always say, when I talk to folks through coaching programs, consulting, sometimes they don't ask for this advice, but I highly recommend paying off that debt aggressively. Pay off your credit cards completely at the end of each month. And if you have a car loan, pay way more than your monthly loan. If it's like $600, which is probably the average right now for most Americans with a car, pay off more than that. So slash your expenses as fast as possible. Something I did in 2023 as well when I got laid off was I sold a lot of things aggressively. There was a lot of things in my home. I was like, do I actually need this? Or is it just a nice to have? And when I move again, is this something that I'm going to bring with me? Probably not. Most of the time, it was a no. I had an old couch that was just sitting there that I never used, sold it. I had a PlayStation at the time that I wasn't playing too much, sold it. I had a TV that I wasn't really using much. I was mostly on my laptop. So I sold it. I have other ways to stay entertained, whether that's through my laptop, with my dog, going out for walks, working out, and things like that. So finding additional hobbies to keep myself busy. Now, if you're like me, I was an introvert growing up. I had to actually learn how to be an extrovert, how to meet people. And that's something I always say, start now versus later. Because the biggest thing with finding a job, especially in this kind of market, is knowing people and knowing people pretty well, people that will support you, as well as hopefully you can support them one day as well. So one of the things I recommend is start building your network. And things I recommend doing this, and what I did after my layoff in 2023 was attend more in-person networking events, even virtual ones if those exist. Make a goal of connecting with 1 or 2 people deeply during that time. Connect with people in your industry. If you're in tech like I am, I connect with tech people. If you're in another industry, healthcare or anything like that, connect with people in those industries. Connect with people in the same vertical as you, which I mean, if you're, say, a data scientist, connect with other data scientists. Connect with data scientists that have a higher title. These are the people that are going to help you get jobs the fastest because they understand your role and what you can do. Reach out to old colleagues. Even if you haven't spoken to them in a while, just check in. Hey, how are you? How you been? We haven't worked together in 3 years. But I'm just checking in to see how things are. I was thinking about you the other day. Something as simple as that, being a little bit vulnerable can go a long way. It's something that really helped me in 2023. One of the other things I did was join job groups, Slacks, LinkedIn groups. There's many other ways to join groups. There's an app called Luma now, where you can join groups, join people in person. This is stacking with the in-person events and attending those. Just take the time to really build out your network. Start applying to jobs and interviewing before you have to. So start early, get the practice in, see if your resume is actually working. Update your resume to make sure it's actually working. Make it up to date as fast as possible. Also, I always recommend updating your profile. Put a new profile picture because now that scammers are around, it's good to have a picture to show that you actually exist and you're a real person, as well as filling out all the fields in your LinkedIn profile. And nowadays, you can use ChatGPT to really help you, but please don't copy and paste a ChatGPT answer. Just make sure you use it to help you edit your own creative text when it comes to the jobs and your bio. And you can keep up with layoffs with layoffs.fyi. Highly recommend this website. You can see what companies are doing layoffs because they have to legally put it through the government. And there's all these things that I don't really understand because it's not part of my job, but I know that they do show it, and you can sometimes see these companies doing it in advance. And if it's affecting your industry in any way, it's probably a good idea to start looking for your job. And another thing I always recommend is cancel your subscriptions if you can. I've been living without any streaming service for the last 5-ish months now, and I don't miss it. I've figured out other ways that I won't say here of how to find things that I want to watch, but I've been keeping myself busy mostly with networking, going to in-person events, reading more books, upskilling with AI and these tools. All these things I highly recommend doing as well. If you can, look at all your bills and lower them as necessary. An example I would use is before I used to have a T-Mobile plan that cost about $50 a month for a single prepaid plan. I didn't want any of those crazy, unlimited data and all that. I don't need any of that. So I decided to lower my bill. But after looking at and seeing an ad for Mint Mobile, I was like, if I pay in advance and I pay 6 months to a year in advance, my bill could be as low as $15 a month. Yeah, I have to put a lot of money up front, but in the long term, I'm thinking I can save more money and not have a bill I have to worry about month to month. Instead, I'm paying $15 a month for my cell phone bill, and it has not changed my experience with my phone. And I mentioned it already, was updating the resume. Update your resume, have friends look at it. If you have recruiters in your network that have them take a look, have them support you in updating it. Now, no resume is perfect. You can hear all this advice. It's a lot of contradicting advice on resumes, and to be honest, sometimes any of them can work. But there are just a few things, and I'll make another video about how to create a good resume that gets more eyes, gets people to stay on it longer in the future. So it's a good time to probably like and subscribe to not miss that video. Okay, we're moving on to the second part. Now, this is what to do if you get laid off. Now, in 2023, I got laid off myself. I was half expecting it. I didn't do any of the things that I mentioned. I did some, like save the emergency fund. That was a big thing that I needed to do. But I didn't see it coming at the time it came. I thought it would happen maybe more down the line. I was applying to jobs. I wasn't having much success, but it taught me a lot. Now that I look back in hindsight, there are things I could have done better. It was the first time I've been laid off, so I get it. If this is the first time you've been laid off, this is probably a good video to watch. So one of the things I recommend, and this can be a legal thing, so be careful what you do, is save all your documentation. Any documentation utilized, created yourself, or borrowed, some advice, whether you're like in sales and you have a specific script that y'all use in your team, that's something that you can probably utilize at a future job. And during an interview process, if you have to do some kind of presentation or anything. So recommend saving all your documentation, making copies, sending it to your personal email, and if anything, seeing what works for you. I always say write down all the impact you've made, whether through performance reviews, save those. I always say save them, take screenshots of what people have said. If people have given you feedback in messages, I always screenshot those, have a folder that's saved, send it to a personal folder that I have on my personal laptop so I could showcase that in the future when I am looking for a job. I also make sure to reach out to people while I'm still working to get recommendations so that when I get a job and they ask for those references, I have them on hand already. When the looming call comes, and you'll see, you'll have a call with HR and probably your manager. Make sure you ask questions. See what you are eligible for. See what they offer. If they offer severance, sometimes they'll pay for your health insurance for a few months. There are different things that are offered, and sometimes you can even negotiate your severance package depending on the impact, how long you've been there. There's a lot of ways you can do this. The worst thing they can say is no and just give you the severance package they originally wanted. This is something I wish I did when I originally went there. Now we say do your legal research. Make sure, talk to a lawyer maybe if you can, or if you know one. You can use ChatGPT and AI to see if a company has done it, because there's a lot of companies that did not do layoffs correctly, and a lot of people probably could have sued them or find different ways to get more money out of these companies. And depending on your situation, there are other things you could do. Downsize, if you have an apartment and you're living alone, is there space where you can have a roommate? Possibly. Can you live with a roommate? Maybe live with a family member if you cannot pay rent. If you are partnered with someone married or anything, do they make enough to handle things while you can set up your own space so that you could find a job, because it's a full-time job to find a job? I would still lean on family to support if you can and if you have access to that. I would say get support from your community. I go to church, for instance. I'm a big church guy, so I have a community at church. Those are people I can reach out to. Hey, I'm on the market. If you go to a gym and you know people there, hey, I'm on the market for a job. It's that time to get vulnerable and see. You never know where help may come from. It comes from the most unexpected places sometimes. And something I always have learned since the beginning of my career, and I've seen people unfortunately do this, is don't burn bridges. I've seen people burn bridges before, and that can affect you in the long term. I've seen it happen when sorry about that. I've seen it happen when somebody applies to a job, I talk to them, but come to find out that they got fired from a job for ethical reasons, for instance, because I find out there's someone else in the company who was part of my hiring team, and I have to let that person go because it's not going to be a good fit for the company. That has happened to me in the last 8 years many times. So you'd be surprised how sometimes burning bridges, treating someone wrong can affect you in the long term. Okay, lastly, on what to do post layoff. Now, this is happening maybe weeks, maybe months after you've been laid off. Now, sometimes people just jump right in, which I don't recommend. I always say take some time off, take about 2 weeks off, relax and recover. I wish I did that. I did not. I jumped straight into it, like same day, applying to jobs, and then I got burnt out a month later, and I had to take a few weeks off of applying because I was in a really bad place. Now, once you feel ready and you have updated your resume, you've updated your LinkedIn, you started connecting with your network, it's still apply aggressively. Apply to as many jobs as you can. And I always say, don't use LinkedIn's fast apply or easy apply, I forget what it's called, but instead find the companies, find the job, go to their website and apply through their website. And just know it's gonna take a long time. It's a numbers game. You're gonna apply to a lot of jobs. Maybe you might get lucky and not. There are some people that just get lucky as they're applying. They don't apply to over 100 jobs, but I see people applying to over 1,000 jobs and still not landing anything. It depends really on your location, where you're at, your skill set, what's your title, what job are you in, are there many of them? If you're a salesperson, like an account executive, there's always jobs out there for those people. So those people don't usually stay on the market that long unless they're not great salespeople, let's be honest. But there are some other jobs that just take a really long time that are really hard to fill, like talent. If you're a recruiter like myself, it's really hard to find a job out there because there's a lot of great recruiters out there. Let's be real. It's really easy to be a great recruiter and really hard to be a great recruiter. So it's kind of one of those things that it's hard to gauge unless you know the person. And as you're applying, continue to polish your resume. Is it working? Have you gotten any calls with the first 100 roles you applied to? Have you gotten a call? Have you gotten any interviews? If not, maybe you got to change something and continue to refine and update your resume. And again, I'll have a video about what works most of the time, because it doesn't work all of the time, to get you more calls in the future. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see that video. And I always say, and I wish I did this too, because I didn't, is that stop the bleed. So this terms of money, obviously bills are still required. They don't pause just because you got laid off. So you still have bills to pay. Yes, you have an emergency fund, but do you want to deplete it completely? No. Find something you can do ASAP, whether it's gig work, driving Uber, DoorDash, renting your car on Turo if you have a car, doing TaskRabbit. There's many ways to make money through gig work. It's not a lot of money, but hey, it will at least stop some of the bleed. And if you can, find a part-time job. If you can work in a family business and see if your family member can pay you. There are other ways that you can stop the bleed, or at least, while you're looking for a job. A lot of people want to start building their own business. That does happen a lot, where people are like ready, like, that's it, I'm not going to work for a company, I'm going to build my own business. But that takes time. Building a clientele takes time. Getting your first client takes time. Unless you're some superstar, you've done it before, or you get lucky, because luck has a lot to do in these instances. Then I recommend still building the business if that's something in mind, but please do everything else on top of that. It's just the truth in the nature of things right now. The way I spent my time when I was working, which I felt like looking for a job was like working. After applying aggressively and spending hours upon hours every day applying, I changed how I did it. So instead of applying all day, I switched it to apply half the day, then half the day focus on networking. And eventually I changed it to just apply to specific jobs that I really want, companies I know, research them well, and reach out to at least 5 to 7 people in the company to see if anything happened. I knew majority of them probably won't answer me. Most people aren't on LinkedIn if they have a full-time job. You're probably only on LinkedIn if you're looking for a job. So you'll be on LinkedIn much more versus other people. Treat your work week, treat your time off as a work week. You're working a typical 9 to 5, keep the same habits. You go to the gym in the morning. If that's something you do, keep that habit. Don't shift anything. If you sleep in on weekends. Like, yeah, maybe you can get away with hour here, hour there, but just be prepared, because when you get back into the workforce, it's going to be really hard to reverse that. That's something I didn't do, but I have friends that did let the day get ahead of them. They would sleep until 10, and then their days were a little all funky, and they do things different. The only thing I changed was the time I would go to the gym. Instead of going at 7 a.m., I was going at 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. I would spend half the day just applying, and then once I would go to the gym, come back, I felt refreshed, revitalized, and then I do my networking. Sometimes vice versa, depending on where I was networking. If I was networking with people in New York, since I'm originally from New York, that's what I did. So you also have to figure out time zones, where you're located, if you're willing to relocate, and all these other things that I probably didn't discuss here, but this is already a long video, so I'll just keep it at that. So I want to know, was this helpful for you? If you made it this far, I would love to hear in the comments below. Click yes, how supportive it was. This is not the conversation to just end all. This survival guide is something that's continuously going to grow, especially with how we figure out what's happening in the economic environment. So please keep the comments below. If there are things you disagreed with, put it below. I'm curious. I want to keep this conversation going. So comment below, like and subscribe if you haven't already, for those future videos. And I'll catch you next time.